less probably to go on this issue. This is not going to be the last time we get together, okay? We're in tight quarters now. We're going to do it again. We're going to. Okay.
Just a point of what you said.
Okay.
I just want to jump in because I would like to know what would, in the research, what happened to Native American Day being recognized on the 4th Friday of September? I mean, that was, I would like to know what happened with, well, the state of California, but we're in California, can we learn more about
It's California Indian.
Yeah. It's California Indian Day. I think that's the one.
Mostly celebrated. The fourth Friday of September.
Right.
But is that not, I'm sorry,
It's not. It's not a
Specifically
city
California
holiday.
Indian Day, so, and it's a state.
so it doesn't include, it doesn't include.
I guess it was along the same lines. You just said the proposal is to add another paid city holiday. But and that implies that there's going to remain a paid city holiday as well. If you're saying to add one.
So if you're going to add one, the councilman has asked CAO, the chief financial officer for the city, to do a study to figure out how much it would cost the city to add another holiday, to give me another day off.
So that means that we're not necessarily, so, I mean, because, and again, I think this went all the way back to the very first comment that Jim made, which was that it's not, from the motion itself is not clear at all about what
There's some issues
days.
with the motion.
Well, I mean,
this is why we have to sort of look at it very critically, right?
Because it does reference, in the paragraph you noted, thus it is fitting, by establishing the capital Indigenous, Peoples' Day as a legal city holiday. So is the implication there that there's an existing current, capitalized Indigenous Peoples' Day that exists, and that is October 12th, and that is the day that we're talking about? Or I think you had said an Indigenous, which implies it could be another day.
It's creating another day.
Okay, so, then I'm not sure what we're.
I think, just so you know, the reason why I think so many people are confused from the Italian American community is that if you're simply creating another day, which we would all support, why are we being asked to?
Okay, so that's a good question, right?
Because it was my understanding from the records of the city that as of 2002, you could choose to have Caesar Chavez Day off instead of Columbus. You get to choose, and if that's that's one thing. That if that's the case, then maybe it's not even an issue. I don't think anybody here would in any way oppose an Indigenous Person's Day. I think we would all support it.
That's incorrect. Okay, as a state attorney, Caesar Chavez Day is a state holiday.
Right.
Okay, it is a paid holiday. They have that the city, which is different.
Right, I understand that.
And the city is the only one that has Columbus Day as a paid holiday.
So what? Okay, so what our question is that if we're just adding another holiday, I think every Italian American here would say, great, do it. We appreciate the fact that Indigenous persons deserve to be recognized.
Right.
I think there's some confusion what this motion is trying to do.
Here's where I think maybe I could lend a little clarity to the motion, right? And this is just an assumption, right? The assumption is here, CAO is going to come back with the report. They'll come back. They'll come back in about 2 months' time, and they'll say, God, really, to add another holiday, it is going to take millions and millions of dollars, and we're going to have to dish out millions and millions of dollars. Can the city look at an existing holiday that already, right, that is already there, that we can replace this Indigenous Peoples' Day with that holiday? And the councilman has made it publicly clear, as you said, that in lieu of that, if that were to happen, then that would be the option that they would go. The city will take that option, which is to then to replace then the movement will be to replace an existing holiday we're setting in place.
And that's why I'm saying it's unfortunate, because you're pitting two groups against each other, which is very.
Okay, can we, there's a lot of people that want to participate, so please, and can people raise your hand?
Again?
There was, and on the door, 1, 2, 3, okay, can we do it, okay, can we start here and go around the room, you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, can we let all the people that haven't, okay, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay.
Okay,
Go ahead.
7.
7, and where?
We have 20 minutes and
So
7
a minute, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Go ahead.
Yes.
I'm Claire Ambrosio, again with the Italian community. And what I'm hearing here today is that there's a lot more going on than just this day. I feel very, very, very bad and upset for all of you that your curriculum in your schools, I didn't go to school here, I went to school in New York. And you know what 9th grade social studies is? It's the Iroquois people. And I learned all about the Iroquois who lived all throughout what is now New York State. So it's really, and I understand we need to talk about this day, but it sounds like there's a whole group of you here who really need to sit and talk about changing the curriculum in the schools here.
We're doing it.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's great. And maybe, as a group, we can be of help. I mean, maybe this is an area where we can come and help you. So, in supporting you, in writing letters to whoever needs, who's in charge of changing curriculum, I mean, these are how things get changed. So, I think that's a very, especially for you, who's half Italian and half Indian, which is my nephew as well, both my nephews. So it's sad, and I'm really sorry to hear that, because the rest of the United States isn't like that, and I'm sorry to hear that. This lady's done tremendous work, and this should be recognized. But my question for you is, when do you think this report might be done on let's get to the heart, to the financial portion of this discussion?
The CAO will come back soon as council comes back in session in August. I think they'll hear it in August from CAO.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on.
Yes, move on.
There's a lot of speakers, so, okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Luis Garcia Ivans. As an indigenous descent, Mexican-American Chicano, I'm here to speak in support of all people of Indigenous Day. And I want to say this, excuse me for reading it. We come to request recognition of Los Angeles Peoples' Day initiative by the Sacred Places Institute to paraphrase First Lady Ms. Michelle Obama saying last night of her recognition of how far we've come when she wakes up every day in a house that was built by enslaved Africans. Just a little differently. So too, when the city joins the leading cities in this country in recognizing Indigenous Peoples' Day, all LA City residents will be able to wake up every day recognizing how far we've come in recognizing Indigenous peoples. Recognition is the first step towards respect, reparations, and reconciliation of the ugly beginnings in this country, so as to be able to coexist in interdependent harmony, mutual respect, and peace.
Emotions here, but I just wanted to, again, I'm Clementine, I work in American Indian Studies at UCLA, and I just want to reiterate that question of why removing Columbus Day would be pitting ethnic groups against each other, because Columbus is one person, and I don't have anything against acknowledging the contributions of Italian Americans or the Columbian Exchange, which also gave a lot of disease to American Indians and wiped a lot of us out. So we should talk about that as well. And you're but I think for me as a Native person from this continent, I grew up in South Dakota, which is a very racist state, but they had Native American Day, and it wasn't, that was like, we never celebrated Columbus Day growing up, and it wasn't a big deal. And I think for us to celebrate Indigenous Peoples' Day, it's a systematic change. This system that we all live in is to erase us. And it's not, we're not saying that we're trying to erase another ethnic group. We just want to be acknowledged because we have never been acknowledged. And it's just, that's what we're trying to get at. It's not, we're not saying that we have to erase another ethnic group. How is Columbus an ethnic group? Columbus is not an ethnic group. And to the rest of us, to celebrate Columbus is to celebrate genocide and to celebrate the loss of our people and our ancestors. And that's where our emotions are coming from. We're not trying to do this to erase anyone else. We just want to acknowledge it because we have never, ever had that. Ever. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Marcos Aguilar. I'm the head of school, the Vacancy principal of the only Indigenous Peoples Charter School in all of Los Angeles County. And we teach our language there. I'm Mexicano Azteca from Mexico, and as many Indigenous peoples in this city are from outside of the continental United States of these 50 states. And that is to be recognized in this call for an Indigenous Peoples Day as well. And we're kind of behind the times here because in 1965 the United Nations adopted an international convention on the elimination of all forms of racial discrimination that entered into force in 1969 by international agreement, including the United States as a member state. And here we are discussing Columbus. Article 7 points out that it calls for the immediate and effective measures, particularly in the fields of teaching, education, culture, and information with a view to combating prejudices which lead to racial discrimination and to promoting understanding, tolerance, and friendship among nations and racial and ethnic groups, as well as propagating the purposes of the Charter of the United Nations, the UN Declaration on the Human Rights, and UN Declaration on the Eradication of All Forms of Discrimination, Racial Discrimination. And fundamentally, the question of Columbus Day here being still celebrated in 2016 is a question of the eradication of racism, institutional racism. We could have Indigenous Peoples Day any day of the calendar year, I'm sure. The point is, should our children be celebrating the heritage of racism that led to a mass genocide? Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Monique Castro again. As I mentioned, I'm a psychotherapist. I work here in Los Angeles. I'm also a coordinator with the Southern California Indian Center and grew up here in Los Angeles, Huntington Heights. I'm also part Italian as well, my mother's side. We are cousins. And you know, one of the things that growing up, I never celebrated Columbus Day, even having my Italian side, also a very proud culture, you know, Italian. But definitely I appreciated my family for allowing our recognition as being Indigenous people, you know, and knowing that that was actually really hurtful to us and her meeting her child and her nieces and nephews as well. So I never recognized Columbus Day, and I think we've kind of already established that it's not about the Italian community versus with the holidays being you know, taken out Columbus Day and replacing it with Indigenous Peoples Day. But I also, you know, as my sister here mentioned, restorative justice. You know, this is really about restorative justice. And Indigenous Peoples Day is very inclusive, and this is what we want it to be inclusive. This is inclusive of our brothers and sisters from the Pacific Islands. This is inclusive of our brothers and sisters in Canada that are down in our Central America and South America areas and across our country, across the you know, the world here, and Los Angeles being this like hub of so many immigrants and so many cultures, and this really helps us be able to include everyone in that. And so I just really think, you know, when we think of Indigenous Peoples Day and how that really is an inclusive day, including of all of our diversity here in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Well, my name is Julio David Jr. I'm the tribal president for the Fernandina Salvi Band Mission Indians and also the chairman for the Los Angeles City Indian Commission. I was going to say a little bit more, but Clarentine actually hit it on the nose. What I was going to say is the fact that even I heard, you know, you don't agree with Columbus, some of the stuff that he's done. And it's a day to replace an individual person and celebrate multiple indigenous people across the Americas. So it's important that we replace this time and we move forward. I'm in support of it. I'm just going to make it short and sweet. This is time that we learn from each other, and this is a good dialogue, and move forward, and let's get Indigenous Day placed and remove Columbus.
Okay.
Well, I have heard a lot of the educators speak about the emotional feelings about genocide created by Columbus. But I would venture to guess that there was genocide going on long before Columbus arrived in the United States, or what we call America. The history, in fact, shows that before Columbus came, there was human sacrifice going on among the Native Americans. There was, there simply were, and that's well understood. And so to hear some of the remarks about a resentment of whiteness or white and European culture, I think it smacks of racism itself. And if I were to have said the same thing, talking about Native Americans, everybody would be up in arms. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that as a representative of the Italian American community, we celebrate Native Americans and their contribution to the culture. However, Columbus has been adopted, for better or for worse, by the Italian American community and in the United States as a symbol of the discovery of the New World from the European point of view. That's not an invalid point of view. That's a very scientific and a very culturally and historically correct point of view. And so I think it's worthy of respect as equal as the respect for the Native Americans. And by the way, I would like to say that, no, I'll reserve that for later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me have a chance to say something.
Was there someone else?
My name's James. No, well, I'm gonna think while I can talk and stuff. Because, this whole thing, like I said, we got educators. We're supposed to know things. This is about truth. I'm not from India. These people are not from India. And that's one thing for sure. You gotta change the history books. And this place about, all the feel-good stuff about who's the traveler and stuff. Well, the thing is, he came and he had greed on his mind. He had blood on his hands. And what he did is steal everything that the Indians had. He stabbed us in the back. And then we're supposed to feel good about it and stuff like that. Okay, I like Madonna too, you know. and there's a thing about, I have Italian friends. I went to school. This is my area and stuff. That the whole thing about this whole discussion, this should have been taken care of years ago by elders and stuff. But there was a thing called money and stuff. Because there was a thing called the oldest thing, the gold and stuff, the Vatican, the World Bank, the trade and all that kind of stuff. I didn't get rich off of it. The Europeans got rich off of it. And then, well, as far as I can go, then you guys can talk all you want because we still got a conversation going on other times, and maybe I'll enjoy that one too. But I respect that.
Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One last one before we. Okay, right here.
No, I have a proposal. No,
I raised my hand several times.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we'll go here.
Obviously, the amount of time we have doesn't give the discussion any kind of justice, but some of the comments about Indigenous peoples, and I'll say it, such as over stereotypes and overgeneralizations about human sacrifice are simply wrong. But I would argue that that is a good example of this oversimplified mythology that Columbus symbolizes in terms of America's history and this notion of being the great discoverer. Who wasn't the great discoverer? We know that. I mean, Columbus, as as other Native people have already identified, he symbolizes hatred, systemic and systematic genocide. He symbolizes colonialism. So I think if we're going to look at in terms of city holidays and addressing historical injustices, addressing who Columbus was and is and how he's represented and what he means to Indigenous peoples is important. And I think we need to as a form of restorative justice. Replace this individual, this holiday, focus on this individual, and recognize indigenous peoples. And I think that's important. It is part of a healing process if we can do this. And the city of Los Angeles would not be the first city to replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. They've done it, they did it up in Berkeley, California in 1992. They've done it in Olympia, Washington. They did it last year in Seattle, Washington. They've done it in Anadarko, Oklahoma. They did it in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They've done it in Phoenix, Arizona, the county of Bexar in Texas as well, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Carrboro City Council, and even North Carolina. These are all cities that have recognized the injustice of having Columbus Day and the kind of historical trauma that Americans celebrate of Columbus Day and what historical trauma means and has meant to Indigenous people and will continue to mean to Indigenous people and still contribute to that process of historical trauma to Indigenous peoples if we do not make that kind of change. So I think it's important that we recognize what George Tinker, who's an Indigenous Osage theologian and academic, he referred to the legal holiday of Columbus Day as a form of state-sponsored legalized hate speech.
Yes, I recognize it all. I recognize.
Okay, we
got a couple more, that's fine, we got a couple more, and that's it.
we are running out of time, so can we start closing, please?
You gotta change it up. Yeah, he doesn't have it.
Frank DeSantis, Sons of Italy. This has been a very enlightening discussion, and I'll commend the city for trying to do something for the indigenous people. I love you all just as much as I love my own family. But what it amounts to here is Columbus came in and took away from the Indians. And now they want to come in and take away from the Italians. Now that is the same thing that you're saying that was bad, and here it is bad here too. So as long as the city council doesn't set the Indigenous Day on Columbus Day, as long as they remember that we have a heritage and culture, and there's a lot of us too, and we also have districts and people. I come from New Jersey, born in Pennsylvania, and you know, we all have a different history, and I like your comments, by the way. And so, there's two wrongs make a right. So I don't think that's the issue, and I think we spent 2 hours here debating racism, conflict, when we should have been saying, what are you going to do? You're going to give the date, take the date away, and why? Because we're going to fight with each other, set up a war? No, that's not what we're here for, and that's not why I'm here. And I don't live my life that way. That's why I go to church, and that's why I pray, and I heard, who was doing the Indian prayer? Was that you? I enjoyed it. Anyhow, so it's good. We should pray, but we should pray that we all can live together in peace and not live at the expense of one another. I wasn't here when Columbus did this thing. I could tell you this. I'm too old. But I've been celebrating Columbus Day since I was a little boy. It's a way of life, and I still do it. And I've been running the Columbus programs, a lot of them in Orange County and in LA for the last 30-some years. And even have a monument. And I will say the Indian people protested, and but they stayed on the sidewalk, we stayed inside. There was no combat. And so, you know, everybody has a right to express themselves. So the expression here has been good. I think we should thank the city council. I won't thank O'Farrell because I grew up in Silver Lake. And I don't remember, and I gotta tell you, Silver Lake, mostly Italian actors and movie stars. And that included Hank Caruso and his family. Caruso has the big enterprise in Glendale and Catholic churches and everything else. So that's my heritage.
Thank you.
We really have to close, and I know there's one last before Francisco. will give us instructions about what to do, please. We have 2 minutes, and we need to close down, please. I know that everybody can have a chance, but we need to move on. Go ahead.
My proposal is very simple. Let's have the day after Thanksgiving, which is a paid holiday. Why? Because it will explain very well and reinforce the meaning of the real Thanksgiving.
We do not.
Okay, everyone, let's go.
Next step.
Please,
Why
next
not?
step. Next step. We're taking diligent notes. And by the way, thank you all the people who came here today. Everyone, all of you, thank you for making the first step. This is step one. We're gonna have another one of these in a bigger space, with more of an agenda. This was just an opening to have this. Everyone, it's just an opening to have this dialogue. I want to thank you for your feedback. You can expect that in a month's time, we're going to have the draft of our white paper as we begin. And these comments that were expressed here today on both ends of the spectrum will be reflected in that white paper, in that report. So that the City Council gets a full understanding of where people are on this issue of replacing or adding. You can expect to hear from Carolina and myself in the days to come as to when we're going to reconvene this table again. Thank you for your participation today, but we're going to remain in touch. Anything else that I'm forgetting?
So what do you think?
So much.
What do you guys think?
No Columbus Day. We think no Columbus Day, right?
No Columbus Day?
No.